on blast.
We are live on Twitter and Periscope once again for another episode of Wrap It Up Game 3.
Yes.
We're here. I am Sheldon Alexander, and I'm here with my guy Beals once again. Beals, what is good, my dude?
You know, Raptors get the W. That's what we wanted. So everything is good right now. You know, no Kawhi, no DeLon. So we're rolling.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't
right?
matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
We talk about the depth of this team. It was a first opportunity to really show that depth off, right?
For sure. I was impressed. Even though, you know, I don't think Washington's that good of a team. We should have got the W no matter what. But it builds chemistry, and it just shows that we have a lot of depth.
Yeah. I think here, two things, right? Right off the bat, I mean, first off, the big story heading into this game was that there was going to be rest for one and only Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi Leonard resting in his third game in Toronto.
Yeah.
News sort of trickled out during the day, Woj bomb of a different sort. It wasn't a trade this time. Big news through Raptorland, Kawhi was resting. I'm going to start there. I know, crazy game. Obviously, I didn't even mention the score. 117, 113, Raptors win. Improved to 3-0. Third game in 4 nights. Doesn't matter. But first, I want to start with Kawhi not playing. When you first heard that, what was your thought process?
Well, you broke the news to me, so you're my Woj, you know. You broke the news to me. I was surprised, but then again, I was like, you know what? I don't think he's 100% healthy. I think he's probably like at 85 to 90 right now.
Working on getting his legs back.
Yeah. He just wants to get his legs back, get back in game shape. So why not rest against Washington?
Yeah,
right.
It's interesting, right? Because my first thought, to be brutally honest, I was kind of like, really? Like already? I was kind of thrown off by it, and I thought maybe you play him and you manage his minutes, but that might get difficult, right? So
right.
It's probably easier to go that way. But then I took a step back and thought about a few things here, right?
Yeah,
that I'm going to pose to you. First off, maybe Kawhi, like, I don't know, like, maybe there's something we don't know. Maybe he's kind of like, okay, my legs aren't there yet. Let me chill on the second night of a back-to-back. But here's a lot of things, right? First off, you're playing against Washington. Washington thinks of themselves as one of the top teams in the Eastern Conference, right? Like, we know that. They do a lot of talking. They do a lot of, chirping back and forth with the refs, as we saw today, but also with the other team. But they think very highly of themselves.
Unfortunately.
Right away, I thought, if you're Washington and you lose to the Raptors without Kawhi Leonard, you're not really serious about life.
No, you're not. Well, it's a disrespect already. If Kawhi's not even in the lineup, so it's a disrespect.
Right? And so the flip side of that is, as the Raptors, if you're that confident that you're like, you know what, third game of the year, we don't need to, like, we know that the Boston game was a statement game as far as like second game of the year goes, right? But if you're the Raptors and you're looking at it and you're like, oh, we'll rest them on second night of back-to-back, you're really not watching Washington that hard either.
You're not. No,
right?
Come on. No,
and that's coming off a team. That's a team that you played last year in the playoffs, and you're still like,
you played the last 2 years in the playoffs, intense playoff series,
and you're just like, nah, whatever. So to me, that kind of showed a lot about where these two teams are at.
Exactly.
And the fact that we were watching it, saying, hey, this game's close, and that's not a good look for Washington at all, right? That's kind of pathetic, no?
Yeah. I think the Raptors let them come back a couple times. They're up by 10, maybe like 2 or 3 times, and let them come back. But this is what Washington lives for. As we're watching the game, we could, like, those not close, but those quick point, like, bursts where the John Wall just goes straight to the rim, gets an and one, gets 2 and ones. That's 6 buckets right there. Exactly.
Hyped, crowd gets going.
Exactly. Oubre starts snapping and whatnot. It's a lot of foolishness. They live for that.
They do. They really do. And it was a weird game because the Raptors starting lineup, as obviously has been the theme right from the get-go, as we told you, Nick Nurse sticking to his word, right? The starting lineup's going to be fluid.
Exactly.
They continue to be fluid, especially adding with Kawhi Leonard not being there. So tonight's game, the starting lineup ended up being, I wrote it down here, but now I'm drawing a blank and I can't find it. Oh, it's right here. Kyle Lowry, Danny Green, Norman Powell, OG, and JV. Norm obviously was a name that stuck out to me because that's a huge bump up for Norm.
For sure.
And Serge going back to the bench, even though there was no Dwight Howard playing, it was Jan Mahimi getting
I forgot about Dwight Howard.
Right?
I forgot.
Dwight Howard has like an ass injury or something. I don't even know. It's Dwight Howard.
Something's
right?
up with him all the time. I forgot he was in Washington. I really did. I completely forgot.
Apparently so did he. So
He's forgot he's been in the league the last 4 or 5 years.
Exactly, right? So Raptors had an interesting starting lineup. When that was announced, what did you make of that starting lineup, just in terms of Kyle, Danny Green, Norm, OG, and JV?
Well, it's matchups. Nick Nurse is a matchups coach, right? So he's going to go with the best matchup possible, right? And let the rotation flow as the game progresses. And to me, that's impressive. You know, like I said, we're not knocking Dwayne Casey. We thought he was not thought. He was a good coach last year.
He's a very good coach.
Yeah, exactly, right? But I don't think he ran a smooth rotation throughout the season last year, right? And Nick Nurse is showing right now that he wants to run a solid rotation. There's no definite starters as of right now for the Toronto Raptors, and so far it's working at 3-0 in the season.
You're totally right about that, right? Because I feel like he's playing matchups throughout the entire game. Because when we were watching the game early on, and you're looking at this lineup, and you're thinking, okay, this is kind of odd. Maybe the offense has to run through Kyle. The offense has to run through JV.
Exactly.
Early, and you know the Raptors were doing all right. Norm struggled early, but as we discussed during the game, I think the key here was, okay, we're so focused on who's starting, but again, Nick Nurse is playing the matchups throughout the whole game. So it's super important that Pascal stayed with Freddie, and then that was enough of a boost for that second unit, right?
Exactly.
Instead of starting Pascal, right, with the starters, you think Kyle and Danny Green and JV, they can hold that unit down.
They can hold the unit down, but the second unit needs a push, and that's why Siakam came off the bench, I guess.
You are a big Siakam guy.
Listen, man. Listen.
Hold on, I'm impressed. I'm
impressed.
There is a stretch there. I think it was the third quarter or early fourth where Siakam got the ball on the perimeter. He's guarded by Austin Rivers.
3 feet away from the perimeter, off the dribble.
Yes, he's beyond the 3-point line.
Exactly.
Looks up at Austin Rivers, blows by him for a dunk.
It's nasty.
Then 2 possessions later, splashes a 3. From episode 1 of this podcast, Beals, you were saying this is a Siakam year. What's his ceiling? When you're watching him, you're seeing it grow.
Right.
What's his ceiling? When you're looking at it, like, where are your expectations now for Pascal Siakam?
If I'm Pascal Siakam, my expectations is to be an all-star. That's just what it is. You wanna go for the top.
Yeah.
And I'm just gonna put the energy out there. I think if he can get the minutes. And no, he's a great player so far for us. But I'm only simply saying this because the East is so thin at that small forward, power forward position. He could be an all-star. I'm just saying simply because the East is thin. That's all I'm saying. That's it.
It sounds weird to say, but you're right. It's about minutes, and his biggest competition might come from his own teammates just trying to get minutes.
His Kawhi Leonard, that's his biggest competition right now on his team.
His game is crazy.
It just shows. Jack Armstrong said something when I think it was around when Siakam was dominating and the Raptors were moving the ball. He said something about team chemistry.
Yeah.
But that may be true to a certain extent. But listen, that boy put in the work in the offseason.
He did. You can tell.
You can put in the work. There's no way Austin Rivers, 6'3", 6'4" guard, should not be getting beat at the top of the key or the perimeter, 3 feet out off the dribble. There's no way. That's insane. That's insane. There's no way that should be happening, right?
We kind of talked about it last night on the pod, just about the differences between Casey and Nick Nurse, and you can see the confidence that a lot of the big guys have with the ball.
Exactly.
Siakam's probably leading the way in that category.
100%.
You mentioned it. His game is polished. And I tweeted out that Drake line, you wasn't with me shooting jumpers in the gym.
Nah, he was putting in that work, man.
You can just tell. His game, his handle, he's so confident. I could never imagine last season watching Pascal Siakam at the top of the key, dribbling the ball, directing traffic, where people to go.
He's our point forward right now. With Kyle Lowry, even when Kyle Lowry's in the game, he's our point forward.
And that's not gas. That's not boost. That's just watching the game and seeing a dude develop and the confidence.
Exactly.
Wow. It was an incredible performance by not only Pascal Siakam, but a dude that we got to really big up. Because here's the thing. When Kawhi Leonard is not playing, then that just means that's extra added pressure on Kyle Lowry.
Exactly.
And Kyle Lowry delivered again for the third game in a row.
Yep.
28 points, 12 assists, 10 of 21 shooting. Obviously, he took more of the shots because Kawhi's not there.
Right.
But what are you making of Kyle Lowry early on in this season? Another dope performance by K-Lo.
It's like I said, game 1. Until proven differently, it's still his team. So he has to take control. And in clutch minutes, like we were saying, we're watching the game, he has to take control. Right? Whether it's creating plays for others or creating plays for himself, he has to take control. And that's what he did.
And he was doing that you're totally right about that, because he was doing that. There was a moment there where, as we mentioned, the lineup where you have JV in with Kyle, Kyle was making a point of feeding JV. He's trying to get him the ball like right in front of the basket, get him easy little chippy.
Exactly.
Buckets,
Same thing
right?
he did with Kawhi. Same thing he did with Kawhi last game.
Yeah, it was super interesting to watch Kyle Lowry. And, I saw this comment on Twitter. Someone said Kyle Lowry's better without DeMar, right? Which is funny to see, but we've gotten a chance, if you're a serious Raptor fan and a ball fan, you watch that relationship of Kyle Lowry and DeMar.
Right.
And there was a spot maybe 2 to 3 years in where Kyle acknowledged that his goal was to make DeMar a consistent all-star.
Yep.
And so you could see Kyle kind of took a step back.
Right,
and even when we watched last year's playoffs, we talked about Kyle probably played his best when DeMar got benched.
Yeah, it's
right?
true.
So the bulldog Kyle, which we know as he gets older,
aggressive.
It's more difficult for him to do that night in,
Exactly,
night out.
exactly.
But this was one of those nights where, hey, there's no Kawhi. Kyle, you got to go.
Right.
And he went.
Well, he has to go. I think he's just trying to prove a point. Like we said, until further notice, it's still his team.
It is.
That's just what it is, right? So we have, as Raptor fans, you have to respect that. Mm-hmm. Kawhi's going to come in, put up his numbers, but at the end of the day, the heart and soul is still Kyle Lowry at this point, right?
Definitely. Kyle Lowry has been the guy for the Toronto Raptors early on in this season. And it's funny, one of the videos that I was talking about with Webby we put up was, is Kyle Lowry still the leader of this team? I think through 3 games, we're definitely seeing that.
He's proven it.
Well, time in and time out, it's not only just him scoring, right?
Right.
Controlling the game, but then same thing he does in crunch time again. Right. Taking big charges, right?
Wow, he had 3 of them tonight. That was important for us.
And it's funny, too, because this is against John Wall. And John Wall is supposed to be one of the best point guards in the league. If you ask John Wall...
Can we talk about it?
No, but let's be serious, right? If you ask John Wall, he'll tell you he thinks he's one of the best point guards in the league.
Yeah.
He thinks he's that dude.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, Kyle Lowry's here to just be like, hey, I outplayed you again.
Listen, man.
I know you were shaking your head at John Wall a lot during that game. What are your thoughts on John Wall?
I have a few friends who are legit John Wall, fans.
Yeah.
Me personally, I don't think John Wall is that good.
Yeah.
That's just me personally. I don't think he's that good.
That's fair.
I don't think he's got that good. I think if you put him in the Western Conference, he struggles. Mm-hmm. His style of play is very reckless. He doesn't play any defense. He has 2 bread and butters, right? When he attacks the rim.
Yeah.
Right? But even then, when he's attacking you at the rim and you step back, he's expecting the contact. It happened a few times in the game. Yeah. So he's going to miss the shot and he's going to complain about the foul. And his other bread, exactly.
Did see a lot of that
his
tonight.
Other bread and butter is when he gets you at the top of the key, maybe goes 5-6 steps in, steps back. His mid range is probably one of the best, but he doesn't use it to his advantage, right? So therefore he struggles. I don't think John Wall's top 5 point guard. A lot of people would beg to differ, but I just don't think so.
I mean, it's weird because if you think about it, should we even be thinking I bet in most people's mind, you would take John Wall over Kyle Lowry. But when you watch them play,
big difference,
and you follow the Raptors night in, night out, you're looking at it and you're like, Kyle Lowry does a lot more to affect a game than John Wall does.
John Wall takes plays off.
Yeah.
Basically, if you watch the game, he takes plays off. Yeah. Right. If you want to be, if you say your top 5 point guards are one of the best, he said it himself. Why are you not guarding Kyle Lowry? Why is Bradley Beal guarding Kyle Lowry? Why is Oubre or Otto Porter guarding Kyle Lowry? It doesn't make sense, right? But he said he's one of the best point guards offensively and defensively, right? That's what he says, right?
That's what he says.
That's just my opinion.
No,
don't shoot me for it.
No.
That's just my opinion,
I'm not mad at you at all. It's one of those things where Kyle Lowry just dominated this game, and he's doing it on the defensive end, just being that pesky,
aggressive when he's aggressive. Yeah, 100%.
And Kyle Lowry came in on a roll, right? I think he came into this game only missing something like 5 shots. In the first 2 games.
He's only missed like you said, he's only missed under 10 shots.
Yeah, it's something stupid, right? And
his percentage is nice right now.
What Kyle Lowry has done early, and especially to see him do it without Kawhi Leonard tonight. You're watching this Raptor team, and the flip side of they also were missing DeLon Wright, who we know is a key part of their bench. this is really proving how deep this Raptors team is.
Exactly.
You're watching what Nick Nurse did, and I mentioned earlier he was kind of a wizard with the rotation.
Right.
And instead of having Pascal, who probably should be starting, he had Pascal with the second unit. But Freddie comes in now, gives Kyle a rest, and Freddie had a rough first half.
Right, he
but
did.
Second half, Freddie
he stepped it up. I think in the first half he was, kind of looking for his own shot and whatnot. Bringing that type of energy off the bench. But I guess he, good point guards are able to read what's happening in the game, offensively and defensively.
Yeah.
So he's a good point guard in my opinion. So he came in the second half and he's seen, you know what? Let me get a few other players touches. I'll get going later. And that's exactly what he did. He got his teammates involved, got them going, and then he got himself involved later on in the game, right? So that was good on his part. And that's what we needed when Kyle Lowry goes up the court.
Totally true. Because I was kind of worried, right? At a certain point, you're thinking Kyle Lowry on the second night of a back-to-back. The game was kind of really ugly in the third quarter, where it really was like a grinded out, possessions. And Kyle was keeping them in the game. And we kind of looked up at the clock, and I think there was like 3 minutes left in the third. And we both said, well, Kyle's got to go to the bench soon. Yeah, how's this game going to go when they go to the bench?
Exactly.
Boom. Here comes Pascal. Here comes Fred.
Yeah.
I think CJ also came. No, it
Norm
wasn't
Powell.
CJ.
Norm Powell came.
Back.
Surge.
Yeah.
Surge.
So this bench unit comes in. They take the lead from like 3 to 10.
Exactly.
And they really like bigged up that lead and that boost that you get from your second unit that's still missing DeLon Wright.
Exactly.
It's incredible depth that this Raptor team has. But again, I can't praise Nick Nurse enough for just what he did with the matchup of his rotation.
Very, like I said, I'm impressed. I know it's only 3 games in, but so far I'm impressed.
The chess moves are there.
The chess moves are there, right? And like I said, like you and I most definitely watch basketball from a different perspective.
Yeah.
That's just what it is. So we're going to see certain things. Most people watch games like, oh, that was a nice basket.
Yeah,
we're watching it like, nah, why didn't he rotate that way? We're watching rotations. We're watching movement. We're watching ball movement.
Yeah.
We're watching a lot of different things. We're not watching, oh, that was a nice dunk. We're watching things to get to the dunk, the fluidity of the game, right?
Trying to figure out the reasoning for
exactly,
things, right? Exactly. As I mentioned, the game starts, and I'm thinking, okay, that's an odd starting lineup. Why is Norm there? When you think about it, okay, well, you'd rather have Norm with the starters, and then you can now have Pascal with the bench, right? And just because that works well in terms of dividing up your minutes, dividing up the game.
Exactly.
Because that's what it is, and who ends the game is obviously way more important, but you got to get there.
Exactly. We're deep at that 3 position. We're 4 or 5 players.
It's really crazy.
It's impressive.
The thing too, so down the stretch, I know the Wizards made a crazy push, and there's this whole sequence where the refs were a problem in this game. No?
Yeah,
they lost control.
There was a few bad calls on both ends.
Yes, definitely.
Right,
was on both sides.
They at one point, I think it was in the third or maybe like the early fourth, John Wall got like a bad call on him, and the refs made it back up to him. That's basketball. That's how it's supposed to be, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Right. So, like I said, coaches got ejected, technicals, but that's part of the game.
The shot of Scotty Brooks looking back at the guy, he's like, "You're a joke."
Yeah. He hesied him like he got close, like
Bradley Beal came in just like as if he was gonna do something to the ref, and it's it actually wasn't that bad of a call.
No, it wasn't.
John
it wasn't
Wall,
that bad of a call. Yeah, he tripped. But
I
think that had something to do to the previous call.
Yes,
I think Bradley Beal didn't get a call on the other end, right?
Yeah.
So I think it had something to do with that.
This Raptors team, though, the biggest surprise, at least for me, is still Serge Ibaka.
Yeah.
Serge Ibaka had another great game. And the beauty here to me is the fact that Serge put up a good game last game where he was starting.
Right.
And then now you put him back on the bench.
Right.
Didn't matter. Still comes out again. Gives us 16 and 9.
Wow.
4 of 10 from the floor, but he hit his free throws. 8 of 10 from the free throw line.
Probably led the team in free throws.
Serge, again, balling. I'm going to stick to it. I'm not going to say anything bad about Serge Ibaka because he's giving us more than you could ever imagine in different situations, off the bench and starting, right?
I think, like we said, the first game he seemed a little lost, was trying to find his flow, his groove and whatnot. Didn't really know where at certain times he didn't know his position on the court.
Yeah.
But from watching the last 2 games, he's slowly coming together. He's seeing where his positioning is supposed to be at. Most importantly, I'm okay with him passing up on that three. I know he's confident enough to make it.
I know what you're saying.
But I'm happy with him calling for it in the post, right? I think he's more comfortable there. But if the three's open, take it. But he forces a lot of threes in the past. But it seems right now that he's getting his flow, he's getting his groove correct. So I'm not mad at it, man. Like, let Serge play if he's going to play this good.
We're talking about the moves and the differences between Nick Nurse and Dwayne Casey, right? And obviously the biggest one that we can see so far from Nick Nurse is that JV and Serge are never on the court at the same time.
Yes.
Right? And what that has done, it gives them both way more room to operate.
Exactly.
And not only just handle the ball, but also like just be a part of the offense.
Right.
And so Serge now, you can see, as you said, in game one, maybe it kind of took him a while to figure out, oh, okay, I have all this space. Like,
right, yeah.
I can jab and shoot, but I can do that every time.
Exactly.
So I don't need to.
Exactly.
Right? So he knows that he can give up the ball and get it back because there's ball movement. But when he's getting the ball, there's space because the spacing of the Toronto Raptors is so different. He can move.
It's Serge Ibaka, when he gets the ball at the top of the key, he's either gonna shoot it or he's gonna take one dribble and spin. That's what he's gonna get to the basket. Those are his two moves.
What he does.
That's what he's gonna do.
Yeah.
All right, but Jack Armstrong said that he takes plays off. You remember when he said that?
He had a quote that was something along the line of, what I've enjoyed the most from what I've seen from Serge is he's giving a consistent effort.
Exactly.
Something along. I'm paraphrasing. But it was something along those lines.
Yeah.
I was kind of like, hold on, did he just say basically Serge is trying?
So
like it sounds bad.
If this is what happens when he tries, we'll take it then. We'll take it.
Yeah. And I know it sounds simple, but the way that the NBA is going, that lone big man spot, if you're just super active, that's the key for your team. That's what you need from that spot. Hey, maybe you can step out and hit the three, cool, but we need you to be active, right? Need you to clog up the lane. Another massive block by Serge. He had
playing defense.
Playing solid defense.
Playing aggressive defense.
Yes, but him being out there with either OG as a 4 or Pascal at the 4, that allows for so much more room and so much more spacing, letting him kind of control and dominate.
Right, exactly.
It's crazy to see what this Raptors team is doing, and I know that it's early and it's I keep saying it each and every show. We're 3 games in. And I keep saying I shouldn't be this excited, but right? And then I give a reason why. Washington should be a playoff team in the Eastern Conference, right? They should be. They should be. I don't think they're a top team in the East, but they're a solid basketball team.
Right. Right now, Washington's looking like a 8, 7, or 6 seed.
Somewhere.
Right now.
Because I feel like in the East, it'll probably go. We know who the top 3 or 4 will probably be, kind of, somewhat.
Yeah.
It's probably like the 2, Boston and Toronto are up top, and then you're looking at 3, 4 as like another tier down.
Philly.
Right? Like whatever it ends up being, if it's Philly and
Indiana.
Bucks, something like that. You know what I mean?
Milwaukee as well. Yeah.
There's going to be a race from that, like, let's say 9 to 6 is going to be a logjam, or 9 to 5 is going to be like a logjam of teams, right?
Right.
And basically, your one run going, like either a positive run or a negative run from being in 5th or not.
Exactly.
I see Washington as being one of those teams, right?
That's what same position they were in last year, no?
Exactly. Yeah. Totally. Yeah. So with that said, though, to me, that's a big-time win for the Toronto Raptors to say, hey, we can come in here without our best player in your place on the second night of a back-to-back against a team that, remember, they're super familiar with because the Raps, that was a serious playoff battle last year. Yeah. So if you're Washington, you should be hyped up for this game. You're not on the second night of a back-to-back. No. You're chilling, waiting for the Raps.
You're waiting.
And the Raptors win. And I know the final score was close, but I'm going to give that to the Raptors' legs tiring down the stretch. Like the Raptors, that's a solid dub.
That's obvious. That's obvious. And like as far as Washington, and it goes back to John Wall, they're only going to go as far as John Wall takes them. Yeah. And this is why I say John Wall is a good player, but I don't think he's a great player.
So the whole John Wall, Bradley Beal dynamic, we know that this boils over at least once or twice a season, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if those two guys can play together, just because I feel like, and I don't know if it's a basketball fit, but I feel like it's maybe too far gone. What's the word I'm looking for? Like mentality fit. Like I don't know if their personalities match.
It doesn't match. At the end of the game, as you've seen, the ball was the ball was going to Bradley Beal.
Yes.
Right? Because he got hot. He got the hot. He had the hot hand towards the game. But that's all the time, though.
Yeah.
The ball goes to Bradley Beal.
Yeah.
Whether John Wall's on the court or not, the ball goes to Bradley Beal. Right? And I just, like I said, it's kind of like I don't know, even with Bradley Beal, I don't know if he's past the ceiling or if he hasn't hit it yet or if he will ever hit it, because he's NBA. His game is NBA ready. He's physically NBA ready. His body, everything is NBA ready. He has an NBA game.
Yeah.
But I don't know what it's going to take for him to get to that next hump. I'm not too sure if he was an all-star last year, but he could be a lot better than what he is right now.
It's just a weird team because you see there are plays where John Wall, who's not a good three-point shooter,
right,
but you see him just like settling and taking
just
like bad
up
threes.
Yeah,
why did you do that, right? Yeah. And then you see Bradley Beal will get the ball, take 2 dribbles, he's in the key, fadeaway splash so easily.
Easy.
And then you're looking at this team and you're like, this doesn't make sense. Like, do they run an offense?
They don't run.
I don't know.
I don't think they run a proper offense. I think the offense is John Wall. I think the offense is John Wall.
It's like whatever he feels.
I think the offense is John Wall. If the option is John Wall, and the second option is if John Wall's first option doesn't work, the second option is John Wall passes it. That's just what I'm saying. I like John Wall. I just don't think he's as good as everyone puts him out there to be.
Yeah.
And after watching this game, I know it's only 3 games in, but I've watched plenty of Washington's games from over the years, and it's the same thing with him.
But again, like if you're Washington and you're really serious about what your team is, and I mean, hey, if your excuse is going to be, well, we don't have Dwight Howard, and Dwight Howard is the key cog of what's going to make this team be a top team in the East.
Exactly.
If that's what you're banking on, more power to you.
But didn't they say Jeff Green is like LeBron?
Yeah, that was
Come on, man.
Bradley Beal.
Let's cut it out, man. Let's cut it out.
So
Stop this.
Whatever fake dreams these guys have, it's completely unacceptable for you to lose to the Raptors, who are on the second night of a back-to-back without Kawhi. That cannot
Nah, that's
happen.
nasty. That's nasty.
One guy I want to ask you about, though, who did get the start tonight for the Toronto Raptors, kind of struggled, but made some plays here and there. But overall, Norman Powell, what are you seeing from Norm so far? I'll ask you about this game in particular, because he had kind of a tough go.
Right. I see the same thing I seen from last year. He's a good player, super athletic. Like I said, built for the game. But the one thing he's missing is consistency.
Yeah.
That's just it. Right? He's never been a consistent player. I think that's the only thing that's really holding him back, is that he's not consistent.
Yeah. Right? I mean, when you really break it down, even the game, right? Like he started off poorly, and then the move which you rarely see in the NBA in terms of someone starting the game,
right,
and then to start the third quarter, they subbed out Norm and had CJ in his spot to start.
Exactly.
But then when Norm checked back in the game, he had more of a little pep in his step, right? I'm pretty sure he knocked down a 3 early.
Yeah, went to the basket.
Got
a block, even got a steal. Like, it's there. Your typical small forward, that package, it's there for him. He just hasn't, I don't know what it is, but he hasn't honed in onto exactly what his full potential is. It's there for him. It just to be more consistent. I think if he's more consistent, he'll be okay.
He's a guy that I wonder if, because not all players, like, if you ever, I know this is going to sound weird because I hate comparing, like, all levels of basketball to the NBA, right? Like, I know this is going to sound weird. But I feel like if you've played basketball before, you know that there's certain people who are, like, they need a rhythm, right? So, like, they do better as a starter than coming off the bench. They need to know, like, their role and like, when they're getting consistent minutes and how they're going to play and who they're going to play with and these things. And with this rotation sort of being in flux, it's got to be difficult if you're Norm and one day you're the 10th man and then the next day you're starting.
Right.
But that's kind of the role you're in right now.
Yeah.
Can he figure that out at some point?
I think if he's consistent, it'll come naturally. Whatever, I think, automatically, think about it this way. He didn't show up the last 3 months of the season last year, right? He was a ghost in the playoffs.
Yeah.
But I don't know what it was. Dwayne Casey didn't play him, so we don't know what he could have did in the playoffs.
And also, Dwayne Casey's a guy that, hey, if Norm had that first half that he had today, he's probably not playing.
Exactly. So maybe his confidence isn't all the way there.
Yeah.
Right? So now you bring in Kawhi. Right? Now you have the emergence of OG.
Yes.
Right? And I guess Pascal plays the 3 sometimes, plays the 4 majority, but he plays the 3. So rotation-wise, he's the 4th man. Yeah. Right?
It's a tough spot.
It's a very tough spot. So if I'm him, I take whatever I can get and be consistent. Stay ready. Like Lowry said, next man up. Just stay ready.
Yeah.
Stay ready. That's what it is.
The super interesting part, too, for this Raptors team, and I think, not only is this a credit to Kyle Lowry for fully buying into the system that Nick Nurse is running, but it is a system, right? And what that means is if you come in and you run the sets properly, you're going to get easy buckets, right?
Exactly.
There's times where things break down and it's left to Kyle or Norm to make a play, but for the most part, if you run the sets and trust the offense, you're going to get either a wide open shot or a drive to the basket.
Gonna come your way.
If you just keep things simple,
right,
I feel like you kind of find your way.
Yeah,
through, right?
Yeah, that's a good point. I don't think sometimes he overthinks. Right, like he had maybe
no.
plays.
You know what I think it is? I think he has in his mind what he's gonna do before he gets the ball.
Oh yeah.
So it's not even like he overthinks. It's just like I'm driving.
Exactly.
And then the defense does something a little different.
Defense does something he doesn't adjust.
Yeah,
he doesn't adjust. Exactly.
One person who continues as well to impress, and maybe not to the level as Pascal, but another young buck in OG.
Yeah.
OG's game looks a lot more polished as well. He's been in the lab, looks a lot more confident with his moves, no? Like, what are you seeing from OG?
OG looks good. He looks healthy. That knee looks healthy. His shot mechanics are definitely a lot better. I think his shot was a little shaky last year.
Yep.
If Kyle Lowry or Fred VanVleet, whoever's going to the basket and he's on the court, we know where he's going to be in the corner.
Good cutter.
He's a good cutter, and he's going to be there for the corner three. And consistently the last 3 games, he's hitting that corner three. He didn't have a shot last year. That was his knock. He couldn't shoot. Right? Not saying he's going to be the best shooter, but you can obviously see, just like we said with Pascal, improvements in the game. If you work on it, it will show in game time.
Definitely.
So I'm impressed. I'm definitely impressed.
This game overall, I think, was your grinded out win on a second night of a back-to-back. You look at some people's shooting lines, and Danny Green was 1 for 9. Like, you see some things that were super nasty, ugly, but he's there playing defense. He's there doing other little things, but then at the same time, someone else picks him up.
Exactly.
Right? Like, again, off the bench, you got great burns off the bench from Freddie, from Siakam, from Ibaka, right? And
even Lorenzo Brown was playing a lot in the first half.
Lorenzo Brown got some run. Lorenzo Brown got some run. And this team, depth, this is where your depth matters.
Correct.
Right? Last year, I harped on the Raptors' depth just in the sense of regular season doesn't matter. You need to know your guys for the playoffs because you need to know who's who. But if you're dealing right now in the regular season where you have Kyle Lowry aging, you have Serge also aging, yes. But also now you're talking about Kawhi, where if your early plan anyways is to rest them on back-to-backs, that depth is going to matter during the season.
And I think from the looks of it, I think Nick Nurse is kind of taking a page of the Popovich's book. Right? So he's resting players. We're 3 games. I don't think Kawhi's 100% healthy, but I don't think he's hurt either. Right? He's in between. He's precautionary. I think he might be a bit fatigued, but that whatever the case is.
Heavy minutes early, right?
Yeah.
I think he was over 35 minutes in both of those first 2 games.
Exactly.
You can kind of understand. He doesn't have his legs. He only played 9 games last year.
Exactly.
So, I mean, better to be safe than sorry, I guess. But also, I think to have him sit and watch this game and see, oh, okay, these guys are good.
Exactly.
Right? Like, I think there's a lot of that going on.
Like,
this whole Raptors buzz. This is going to generate more heading into Monday. And we talked yesterday on the podcast about how Friday, so much buzz on ESPN about the Toronto Raptors, right?
Yeah.
So now you're going to go to Monday. They beat the Celtics. They beat the Wiz without Kawhi. The hype machine is going to be in full effect about this team because they're super deep, and we've seen Kawhi do Kawhi work again.
Exactly. Early work.
Very
early work.
Right? And it's such a weird thing for me to try to temper expectations. Right? Because you know that, hey, there's going to be adversity at some point because that's just what happens in this league.
Right.
But the bench is so deep. Weird stat, though. We were talking about how fidgety plus-minus numbers are.
Yeah.
Tonight, who led the Raptors by far in plus-minus? Norm Powell.
Wow.
How does that make sense? It doesn't make sense. To me, that's why plus-minus is such a weird
stat.
It's
weird.
Because watching the game, you're like, huh? What? That doesn't make any sense. Oh, man, it's super crazy. Toronto Raptors, another big win.
Definitely.
Again, 117-113. Kyle Lowry, the high man, with 28 points on 10 of 21 shooting, 12 assists, doing it all. Pascal Siakam with 10 and 10 off the bench. I don't know. You guys are convincing me here about this Pascal Siakam thing.
Listen, man. My guy's getting buckets right now. I'm proud. Like I said, there's a chance he could be an all-star because the Eastern Conference is very thin at that position.
Right? I know that sounds outlandish, but you're right.
Sounds crazy, but like
the only reason why I don't think it will happen is because he won't get the minutes. I don't think he'll get they would need to commit to you're starting at the 4 every single night, and you're getting major minutes.
I agree. If that can happen, then I'm all in.
I was saying too that yesterday. I was saying that eventually, I think the Raptors quote unquote death lineup, as Q named it, would be Pascal at the 5,
right.
OG at the 4,
right.
Kawhi, Danny Green, and Kyle.
That is a death lineup,
right?
100%.
That team, I think, that squad is D'ing up. That team is all over the place. They're switching everything. That's a defensive monster.
That's all defense.
I don't know if that's where we're at now, but I feel like if towards the end, that might be where it gets to. And that makes you super excited because that's a team that defends. You talked about us being basketball nerds and how we watch the game. One of the things that I do enjoy watching is people D'ing up. I think that's a very important part of basketball that's so underrated. But when you watch Lowry on the ground and he's taking charges,
exactly,
that gets a team fired up.
Exactly. Like I said, we watch it differently.
Yeah.
We watch for defensive switch. Man, why is he switching over there? It doesn't make no sense.
Yeah.
Like Pascal beating Austin Rivers at the top of the key, 3 feet out from the 3-point line. Yeah. That's one joke. That's bananas to me.
Yeah, that was crazy.
How does that happen?
That's crazy.
That's crazy, right? So
I don't know where things go from here. A lot of things. Norm had a big opportunity. He started, but he still kind of did his Norm inconsistent things. So we don't really know there. CJ was okay.
He's more aggressive.
He is.
If there's one thing I've noticed about this whole entire Raptors team this year, they're more aggressive.
Yeah. It's kind of again, trusting within the sets.
Yes.
And if you trust in the sets, it's kind of like you're reading and reacting.
Exactly.
As opposed to standing in the corner and waiting for DeMar or Kyle to create.
Exactly.
So we saw the seeds of this last year with the offense, but it's next level now, and especially with only having the one big.
Yeah.
The spacing is so much more, right?
It's a big difference, yeah.
It's a massive difference with what this team is,
for sure.
Where this team's going. One thing I tried to do yesterday on the pod was a new, I don't want to say segment, but one of the things I'll ask is, who was your X factor of the game? We know we'll give it to Kyle as being the MVP. He put up he had the big boy game.
Right.
Who was your X factor in terms of someone who really surprised you? And it might not even be stat line, but just who was that guy for you?
For me, it was Serge. It's a toss. It was a toss up between Pascal and Serge, but I'm gonna give it to Serge, man. He was hooping. He was hooping, man. He was hooping.
He was.
He was hooping.
Serge Ibaka. Serge Ibaka. I don't know how to explain this because I feel like it has to be so awkward watching a game with me because every time Serge gets the ball, I'm like,
don't shoot,
don't do it. And then he's and then he's making moves, and I'm starting to be okay,
I'm like you. When Serge gets the ball, I'm like, nah, man, don't shoot. Don't pump fake. Don't pump fake and step back on the 3-point line. Don't do that. That's not your game, right? So when he gets the ball, and then I see him pump fake.
And
then he gets into the one dribble and he gets into the lane.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right. I think it starts with defense. He has to play defense.
He just has to be active.
Be active, man. You're an active body.
Yeah.
Maybe what Jack Armstrong said was a truth to a certain extent.
Yeah.
He doesn't give it 100% on every play.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what it was. Maybe that's what it is,
True. And maybe too, it's a thing where, when you're a big guy and you're going to get the ball on offense, it keeps you more engaged defensively, but just also setting screens, doing all the other little things. When you know that, hey, I'm going to get a touch. I'm not just running suicides up and down.
You're going to get a touch. And this with this Raptors rotation, the way I see Kyle Lowry and Fred VanVleet, even Pascal moving the ball around, you're going to get a touch. That's just what it is.
That's back-to-back X Factors for Serge Ibaka.
Yeah, man.
I don't know what world we're in right now, but I'm gonna just ride the wave and enjoy it.
I'm impressed, Fuzzy.
Serge, hey, keep doing it, Serge.
Keep going, man.
My next thing, and this might be something new as we go along, because it's a regular season. You're gonna see teams over and over again. But I'm gonna ask you, what did you learn about the Washington Wizards tonight?
That they're trash. They're trash. John Wall's not that good. John Wall's not that good. Like I know it's early, but prove it differently. He's not that good. Like, I'd rather have the option be Bradley Beal. That's just me.
You're saying like you would ship out and keep Beal if you had to keep one.
If I had to keep one, I'd keep Beal. That's just me. And if they're on the court together, Bradley Beal should be the number one option. I don't know. Maybe it's just a bad game, but he's not consistent in my eyes.
He's not consistent.
And it's not good.
It's like the way that the NBA is now is completely different in the sense that if you're the John Wall kind of point guard is more like the early 2000s, late 90s kind of point guard. Where it's like
Dwayne Wade.
ISO ball, mid-range jumpers.
You're gonna go to the rim. You're gonna get banged up. That's why D-Wade's retiring next year. Young age, right? But I think, like you said, the way the NBA is now, he's got to make adjustments to his game.
There's more value on shooting, less value on dribbling.
Exactly.
Right? And all my guys doing is standing there and just dribble. And there's a difference between, I think, where you watch the genius of what Fred and Kyle do sometimes when the offense breaks down, and they dribble, but it's like, okay, I need to make a play in this moment. Shot clock's going down. And I'm not necessarily just going to the bucket to lay it up, but I'm actually driving to make a play.
Right.
And I think that's the point guard difference in terms of John Wall's just, okay, I'm going to the basket.
You know what? They're not trash. I take that back. I just, they're not trash.
No. Do you know what? I'm not going to let you step down off that, because the first thing I wrote, and I wrote it before the game started, was if you're the Washington Wizards and you lose the game, you're not serious about life. That's a pathetic performance.
All right, I guess they're trash then.
No, they've been at home chilling, waiting for the Raptors to come in.
Your legs are fresh.
I
don't think they take the Raptors seriously.
How?
I don't think
that doesn't make sense.
I don't think they
Hold on. They were at home chilling, watching the Raptors play what some people are saying, and I know this sounds ridiculous because it's the second game of the year, but a playoff type atmosphere game against the Boston Celtics, right? You're watching them play that game. Yeah. You're sitting at home watching that. You got to be thinking, okay, we're ready for them tomorrow. Second night on a back-to-back, we got, that's a dub.
Yeah.
That's got to be a dub if you are a team that's serious about making noise in the playoffs. And again, what I learned about the Washington Wizards, they're not serious about life. No. They're not serious about life.
Like I said, no LeBron, the East is open. So I think teams have to make a significant push right away. They have to set the tone right away.
Which, again, is why I give all the praise to Masai Ujiri.
Yeah.
Because how many of these teams in the Eastern Conference said, yo, LeBron's gone? Good. Now's our chance because the East is open. Masai said, oh, LeBron's gone? I'm putting all my chips in, and I'm doubling down on what I got with my squad. I'm not sitting here with my same squad and thinking, oh, well, maybe this. No. Masai, I rate it. I rate it.
Chess move, Masai.
You know what else I rate? I rate the Toronto Raptors for their 3-0 start.
3-0.
3-0 start. 3 games in 4 nights to start the season. Right? Is that correct? Yeah, 3 games in 4 nights. They played Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday. Yeah. 3 games in 4 nights to start the season. 3-0 record, winning the second night of a back-to-back without your boy Kawhi Leonard.
Yeah.
Nick Nurse, that's a great start to your career so far.
It's a great start, Nick Nurse.
Let's take a little quick peek ahead to Monday. Monday they played the Hornets. I was about to call them the Bobcats. They play the Hornets, who I'm pretty sure, yes, the Hornets are winning right now. They're about to win. Oh, no, sorry. No, this is coming right down to the wire. I'm speaking way too soon. They're playing against the Miami Heat.
Okay.
And so it's currently, they have a 1-point lead with about 45 seconds left. But Hornets are an interesting matchup. I feel like they always play the Raptors tough.
Yeah.
Regardless what happens. Kemba always goes to work.
Kemba, Batum. Now they have Tony Parker who's coming off the bench.
Yeah.
And apparently that little rotation thing is working out for them, right? So They're a very interesting team too. Another team that you don't know where they're gonna fall in the East, right?
Yeah.
Another team they could fall 6 or 5, right?
So they kind of got to figure out that rotation.
Right.
Like, are they going Jeremy Lamb? Are they going Kid Gilchrist? Like, are they going Monk? Like, they kind of still have some things to figure out.
There's a lot going on over there, but the potential's there for sure.
Definitely. And Kemba, who always gives the Raptors problems, he is 38 tonight.
Kemba.
So
Kemba Walker, the most underrated point guard in the league.
Since it seems to be a topic of discussion, Kemba or John Wall?
Kemba.
You're taking Kemba over John
Wall? Food. That's food.
See, this is what I mean in terms of this is an interesting conversation, Kemba, right? Man. Because on the surface, most people are like, oh yeah, John Wall's one of the best point guards. Like, you know what I mean? On the surface. But then when you sit back and you really look at it and you're like, wait a second, I would rather have Kyle Lowry than John Wall. Yeah. Right? Yeah. I would rather have Kemba Walker than John Wall. It's super interesting.
I'm a Kemba fan since UConn, right? So I'm a Kemba fan since UConn, right? So he has the best step back game winner ever, right? Yeah. So for me, remember that? So for me, I'm a Kemba guy. I'm a Kemba guy. I think he's the most underrated point guard in the league.
For a second, too, we thought maybe he might fall to the Raptors, right? If I remember correctly in that draft, right? Or no, did they had a chance to take him?
They had a chance to get him. They didn't take him.
Yes, I do remember that. Yeah. Well, they'll be getting their fill of Kemba Walker on Monday night.
Yep.
Next game for your Toronto Raptors. And, again, great start for the Toronto Raptors as they win their third game of the season. A big-time win against the one and only. I totally just forgot they played Washington for a second because I'm looking at something
they're
else.
Not relevant. Washington, you're not thinking about them.
Right? We're not looking at you, dude. You're looking past you. Right? 117, 113. Your Toronto Raptors win to improve to 3-0 to start the season. Join us again on Monday night for Raptors and Hornets following that game. As always, you can find this Wrap It Up podcast right here on my Twitter feed at Shell Alexander. We're trying to figure out ways. Maybe we'll put it up on Instagram. We're on Beals' Instagram right now. Instagram Live. Shout to the people in the Instagram Live
Tuning in.
We'll try to figure that out and do that throughout the year as well. But yeah, as always, we'll do the podcast live on Twitter after, and then we'll take that. That will turn into a podcast that we'll post on iTunes and SoundCloud and YouTube. And appreciate and shout out to all the YouTube viewers because the numbers are going up. It's been pretty good to see just the numbers on the podcast as a whole. Raptors fans are hyped this year. That's what I'm learning.
Most definitely.
Raptors fans want info. They want talk. They want real talk.
They want real
conversation about what's going on with their team.
Exactly.
So we will continue to give it to you. Beals, where can the people hit you up? What are you working on, man? Give me
we're working on a few projects right now. That's under the wraps. You'll hear a lot of great things coming soon. You can find me on Instagram at BillsBTMG, as well BillsBTMG on Twitter. All right, so just stay posted, stay tuned. A lot of good things coming from the camp.
That's what I like to hear. And, of course, Beals, thanks for joining me. My
name
is Sheldon Alexander. You can find me on Twitter, as mentioned before, at Shell Alexander. Instagram, at Sheldon Alexander. On YouTube, when you go there, just search anything on blast. Search Ball on Blast. Search Wrap It Up. You can find all the videos and content there. And, of course, shout out to the people, the Day One people on SoundCloud. I always got to rep the Day One people on SoundCloud. Again, if you're on SoundCloud or iTunes, you got to search On Blast Podcast. That's how you'll find that train for all this goodness that we try to give you each and every week. And as always, I will shout out the man, Meek Millie, that gives me the hypeness, the strength, because he gives me the real talk.
Millie.
Because at the end of the day, I did used to pray for times like this to rhyme like this. This is the Wrap It Up Ball on Blast Podcast, Raps post-game show. Until next time, we'll stay unpolished and unapologetic.
Of course.
Till next time.
Peace.
See ya.